Hi guys, welcome back to TOEFL with Juva. In this lesson, I show you how to write a TOEFL independent writing essay for an imaginary situation question. I include many different ideas to help you increase your score. Let's get started! First, let's look at one TOEFL independent writing question. Your city has just announced plans to turn the entire downtown area into a car-free zone. Only pedestrians and emergency vehicles like ambulances and police cars will be allowed in the area. Do you think it is a good idea to create a car-free zone? Use specific reasons to explain your position. This is the most unusual type of question. It explains an imaginary situation, then asks you about your opinion. There is no correct answer to this type of question. Instead, you need to show the TOEFL examiner to see how well you support an opinion. This type of question often gives a topic that has many advantages and disadvantages. You can pick one side and talk about it. However, I decided to approach this question in a different way. I can see good and bad things about a car-free zone. Therefore, I wrote it with one paragraph showing what is good and one showing what is bad. Here's what I wrote for the introduction. I think that restricting the traffic in the downtown area is an excellent idea in theory. I'm giving a strong opinion here, so the TOEFL examiner knows which side I have chosen. Do you notice that I changed car-free zone to restricting the traffic? In this essay, I paid a lot of attention to my choice of words. I added "in theory" at the end of this sentence to show that it is a good idea, but in real life there may be some problems. In fact, I talk about those in the next sentence. However, there are several important concerns which I think need to be addressed for the policy to be viable. In this sentence, I show that there are possible problems with the car-free zone. I didn't want to sound unsure about my arguments, so I included that they need to be addressed or must be solved for the policy to be viable or work well. This sentence is a great transition for any essay that discusses possible drawbacks to a plan. I used my template for the whole introduction. Remember, a template can give you good transition words and structure. If you need templates, click on the link in the description. You can get templates for all the TOEFL writing tasks, TOEFL integrated writing and independent writing there, and plenty of examples to really boost your score. On to the body paragraphs. To begin, the basic concept of a car-free zone is excellent because it would reduce pollution in the heart of the city. I can actually think of many different ways that a car-free zone would be an awesome idea. If I write about all of them, the essay will become confusing. Therefore, I focused on one general theme. It reduces pollution. Do you see I changed downtown to the heart of the city? That's a great paraphrase because it adds the idea of something living that can get hurt. It hints even more about the idea that pollution is bad. Next, I show the result of that statement. There will be fewer traffic jams and thus fewer emissions that lead to air pollution, global warming, and other negative environmental effects. Now, I did something a little different here. Do you see I used there will be? I could use the conditional would that shows a possibility. However, I want to stress that making the car-free zone definitely will cause this change. I used the future tense to show that there will be fewer negative effects. Negative effects is very general, so after that sentence I give a specific example so the reader knows what I mean. In fact, more trees and shrubs could be planted in what are currently the streets. In fact shows that the following is a detail that stresses the previous claim. Trees and shrubs are a detail of how the reduction in environmental damage could occur. I'm using the conditional could to show that this is one possible way you could build the car-free zone. It may not happen. What are currently the streets really shows off my grammar too. It indicates that the places are now streets, but in the future they may be something else. You can use this structure for the past too, like this. The museum is in what was a school. Back to the essay. Planting trees and shrubs sounds good, but I want to emphasize exactly how it will help. Trees reduce the heat island effect of cities, and small animals like birds or squirrels could repopulate the area and create an urban ecosystem. I like reading about the environment, so I'm now showing off my vocabulary. If you know words like heat island effect or repopulate or create an urban ecosystem, by all means use them. The TOEFL examiner will be impressed with your wide range of words to talk about specific concepts related to the question. Don't worry if you have a more limited vocabulary though. Just explain what you mean as clearly as you can. I could say trees make the overall temperature of the city cooler. That is still a very high scoring response because it's grammatically correct and precisely explains what happens. That last sentence has a lot of and in it, so I will add a short sentence to change the flow. Noise pollution will also decrease. This verb is again will because I'm sure that the reduction in traffic will definitely cause less noise. I use will in the next sentence too. Without cars, the residents will walk to different stores and businesses, which will enhance their physical fitness. Now, I realize this sentence doesn't have as much to do with the environment, so it could be off topic. I think it's an important idea though. I actually wrote this sentence with health instead of physical fitness. Then I saw how I could tie the sentence into the essay. I didn't want to throw it away, so I changed the word health and used it in the conclusion of the paragraph, which comes next. On many levels, the community will be healthier if there are fewer cars downtown. On many levels shows that there are different aspects of the change, so that phrase also links in the idea of planting trees, noise pollution, and people walking. The environment and the people are all part of a healthy community. Now I get to the problems I see in the next paragraph. I indented so it's clear that a new idea is beginning. Even so, there are 3 considerations which must be taken into account for a car-free zone to be effective. Even so indicates that a contrast is coming. In this case, it brings up the problems. However, I don't want to just give a few problems and leave the reader wondering which is better. Therefore, I wrote this sentence so that if the problems are taken into account or fixed, then the plan will work. I also made the number of problems 3, so that it looks like there are only a few problems to solve. That supports the idea that the plan is good too. This structure sets up the next transition. First, accommodations need to be made for those who have impaired mobility. First can be used inside a paragraph like this to show that there is a list. I don't want to spend too much time on each item. Each thought could be its own paragraph, really. Instead, a list presents the ideas in an orderly and concise way. Impaired mobility is another fancy vocabulary phrase, but I will define it in the next sentence for anyone who doesn't know the term. People who cannot walk easily must still be able to access the businesses and governmental services which are in the downtown area. I've just gone from the general claim to a specific example. Basically, I explained what sort of accommodations need to be made. Now I give a solution because I'm still arguing that the car-free zone is a good idea. If this solution is used, then the car-free zone is possible. Possibly, they could receive permits for their cars to enter. I don't write a long explanation. The point of this essay is not to solve every problem. Instead, I just need to say that I like the idea, despite a few details that need to be fixed. Here's the next detail. Second, the city needs to arrange for parking outside the car-free zone. Second, keeps the different ideas in the paragraph separate. This problem actually starts with the solution, arranging for parking. I explain my reason for being worried about parking in the next sentence. If there is no place to leave vehicles, then people will drive elsewhere to do their errands and businesses will move away from the restricted area. I combined 2 sentences together with an if clause when I was proofreading. If clauses are complex sentence structures that will really boost your TOEFL writing score. I also added, and businesses will move away from the restricted area while proofreading. I decided that the original idea that people will drive elsewhere wasn't clear enough. I wanted to show how driving elsewhere would be a problem. In this case, the local economy gets worse because businesses move away. That's enough for the second point, so I move on to the last of the 3 ideas. Finally, the city needs to determine whether bicycles are allowed. Finally is used to show the last item in a list. I could say third, but then the reader might wonder if there is a fourth thing. Whether shows that there is a choice. If you say whether bicycles are allowed, the other choice is whether they are not allowed. The city must decide yes or no about bicycles. Here's the reason that the city must decide. Bicycles might cause accidents, but they also are an efficient method of traveling without a car. But joins two contrasting ideas. It shows that there is a good thing and a bad thing about bicycles. Do you see that I'm not even offering a solution to this problem? I just pointed out that the city needs to solve the problem to make the car-free zone work well. Now that the list is done, I can add the concluding sentence to the paragraph. All of these concerns must be addressed when establishing the car-free zone. Here I just say that these concerns must be addressed or solved. It reminds the reader about the topic of the paragraph, but I don't want to say that they make it impossible to have a successful car-free zone. Let's move on to the conclusion. It's a separate paragraph too. Therefore, I approve of the idea of constructing an area that limits car traffic and increases the overall health of the city if the potential problems that would reduce its effectiveness are resolved. I only used one long sentence, but therefore shows that it's the result of the argument. I say I approve if, in other words, I highlight that I like the idea, but there are certain problems that could cause the idea to fail. That's the end of the writing part. However, I don't stop here. I always use the remaining time to look through the essay for spelling or grammatical errors. I make sure the linking words connect ideas well. I also look for ways to paraphrase words that are repeated. These are essential steps for a high TOEFL writing score. That's it. That's the steps I took to complete a TOEFL writing task. It includes many ways to improve your score.